Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time to join us today. We are all set to dive in for the important discussion on circularity compliances under PWM regulations. We'll be starting in just a moment as we wait for few more participants to join in. While we wait, you can join our WhatsApp community for the latest regulatory updates and our upcoming webinars. Simply scan the QR code on your screens and you can get started. It's great to see so many of you here. I'm Kalyani. I'll be introducing our speakers and sharing few important guidelines before we begin. So let's begin by introducing our expert speakers who will guide us through everything you need to know about the circularity compliances. Our first speaker is Mr. Abhishek Garg, Chartered Accountant and founder of AA Garg and Company, with 15 plus years of experience in EPR compliance and sustainability advisory. He has helped numerous corporations navigate EPR compliance and implement effective sustainability strategies. Our next speaker is Sujayan Jain, Chartered Accountant with expertise in finance, EPR, and ESG consulting, leading packaging footprint analysis for major corporations across Asia. Next, we have Himani Aaron. She brings over 10 plus years of experience in waste recovery and the circular economy, working closely with the recycling industry to create efficient systems and processes for material circularity. She currently leads EPR projects that drive sustainability while aligning business goals with environmental responsibility. Now let's go over a few important guidelines to ensure a smooth session. The meeting will be recorded. Only the discussion would be recorded without attributing to the speakers. We request you to refrain from spamming or marketing during the session. Q&A session will be held at the end. Kindly restrict the discussion to the mentioned topic. Note that all the attendees are on mute. For any queries, please use the raise hand feature. The moderator will unmute you and allow you to speak in the Q&A round. Kindly introduce yourself and your organization and then ask your question. In view of the time limitations, we request that all attendees avoid repetitive questions. You may also please keep entering your queries in the chat box and we shall get back to you. Please note that the current presentation will not be distributed out of security reasons. However, we can share the same on request basis. Now to discuss about the topic, I would like to invite Ms. Ipsita to take it over. Ipsita, over to you.
Thank you, Kalyani. Hello, everyone, and a very good afternoon today. As we proceed with the webinar, I hope you all are aware that the circularity obligations are starting from FY 25-26 onwards under the plastic waste management rules. The obligations of circularity start from minimum recycling, which have already started, and the reporting will be on FY 24-25. The second compliance is for the use of recycled plastic content, which will be starting from FY 25-26. And the third is the reuse obligations, which will also be starting from FY 25-26. Yes, there are a lot of apprehensions within the industry, and I know you all have a lot of questions pertaining to reuse obligations, the use of recycled plastic obligations. And to move onward towards the same, we will understand the compliances in detail in our webinar today. And you can note down your questions or keep on asking them in the chat box, and I will be picking them up in the Q&A round. So moving onward, I first of all invite Mr. Abhishek Garg to help us understand the compliances in detail.
Thank you, Ipsita. Thank you, Kalyani. And thank you for all the attendees who are here today to know more about the circularity obligations under the PWM compliances, PWM regulations. So please, without much ado, let's delve into it. Let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So apart from the EPR targets and the EPR obligation, wherein the PIBOs, producers, importers, brand owners, are obligated to fulfill their EPR targets. These targets, additionally, which you can see on the screen, which I'll explain briefly in the overall, are adding over and above the what is target which has been implicated as a EPR. So that's what we call it additional circularity targets. Now, there are three targets you can see very clearly, and what Ipshita also gave a brief about it, which is reuse, minimum reuse target, minimum recycling target, and minimum use of recycled plastic in plastic packaging content. Now they have defined these three obligations under the PWM regulation, wherein for reuse, they have defined it saying the use of an object or resource material gear for either for the same purpose or another purpose without changing the object structure, which I'll take you through in the upcoming slide for reuse as well. Now, this very importantly, this reuse target is only for the brand owners, not for the producers and importers. And this target is only on the rigid packaging. It's not for all the packaging. So that is important. And you can see below the reuse target has been further be broken down into the basis the filling capacity of the rigid packaging, majorly containers or something which can have the filling capacity to hold the or holding capacity. Now they have divided this into two categories, which is, of basis their filling, which is 0.9 kg or liter up to 4.9 kg or liter. And the targets for those small packaging starts at 10%. So basically they in the reporting, they asked when you put the consumption or the purchase procurement, what is the filling capacity of your rigid packaging? And that is where on the basis of that segregation, that 10% target will be calculated once you submit this year annual filing for FY 24-25. For the packaging of rigid, which is more than 4.9 kg of the filling capacity, the target starts with 70%. And very important to note, the reuse of plastic packaging for food contact applications shall be subject to FSSAI regulation. So if there is any packaging, rigid packaging, which is a direct food contact, and if there is a regulation available wherein you can reuse that, then only you should be applying for you can do this. So basically for the food contact application or packaging, you need a FSSAI go ahead or FSSAI guidelines for the same. Now, another important is minimum recycling. So as I said, these are over and above. So let's say if you, I'll take you through an example, but this minimum recycling is across four categories and it already started, and for which the companies need to report this year. So for category one, minimum recycling EPR credits should be 50%. For category two and category three, it should be 30%. And for category four, it should be 50%. So when I say recycling for category four, it means for compostable industrial composting is the recycling, not the general mechanical recycling for category 4. And third, for the minimum use of recycled content, which is to be fulfilled at the category level, in which the category 1 target starts with 30%, category 2 10%, and category 3 5%. And all of these targets are increasing year on year by 10% or either by 5%. You can see the progression on the slide here. Also, for the use of recycled content, if any company is importing recycled material and introducing in the packaging, or any company is importing any packaging with the recycled content, then those are not allowed to be to be reported or will not be allowed for fulfilling against the compliance mentioned in the use of recycled content. And that is happening through multiple clauses, and that can be explained to people if they have any questions on that. Another important thing, for the use of recycled content compliance, CPCB may grant exemption on case-to-case basis, depending on the statutory or any technical requirement and basis. But still, the targets are yet to be yet to be fulfilled by buying the UReP credits, not the UPR credits. So UReP credits, which stands for use of recycled plastic, or you can call it PCR credits. But this credits is different from the EPR credits to fulfill. And my teams or from other speakers would explain a little bit more about in the upcoming slides. But in a nutshell, this is what the regulation says. And just wanted to give you a little dive, and the team will take you through the relevant meetings happened around this thing with the regulators and give you update on each one of those. But just to give you hindsight, that the respective PIBs and respective stakeholders have told and spoken to a lot of regulators through industry associations, and the regulators from MOEFCC, CPCBs have been hearing all those challenges, and they are might be reconsidering and might be looking to re-evaluate the targets depending on the market situation. And there is expectation in the market to receive a circular or amendment on the regulations soon. Not sure when, but soon, that is what is expected. And there has been communication which is all happened through a verbal discussion or through meetings. But yeah, go ahead to the next slide. Now, coming to the reuse obligation. Now, as I was saying that it is only applicable to the brand owners, it's only applicable for the rigid and majorly where there's a rigid packaging used for containing or filling, and the targets are broken down in the separate filling category wise. I've already told that the food contact application is subject to FSSI rules. It's not a straightforward exemption, but I know there is only very few guidelines available for food contact application for reuse in the FSI regulations. Further, a very important thing mentioned under the reuse, and that's something creates a logical complications as well, apart from the definition, which also creates a little complication. But what government is saying under the regulation, that computation of how much you have reused for a brand owner will be calculated on the basis of how much you have sold versus how much you have procured and how much you have reused. So let's say if you have sold 100 and you have procured 80, the new packaging, and 20 you have reused, that's what you have to claim, saying that my procurement of virgin packaging has reduced because I am reusing my packaging, and you have to claim it through. But however, there is no clear guidelines around it, how the reuse should be treated, what are the guidelines to reuse, and what are the limitations to reuse. So that is what the current standing on the regulation for the reuse. And the regulation, as the regulators and the policymakers has heard about a lot of issues around reuse, and that will be shared in the webinar as well. Go ahead in the next slide. Now, coming to the minimum use of minimum recycling target, wherein you can see there are targets defined for minimum recycling. So just to a simple understanding, if the EPR target of yours is 100 for FY 24-25, and it is category 100 tons, then in 24-25 filing, while you are filing your return, you need to have 50 tons of EPR credits from recyclers who is recycling it, and remaining 50 you can take the end of life credits, which is through co-processors or cement plant co-processor, waste to oil, or incinerators, waste to energy. So that's what it effectively means. And you can see an example below to explain the same, wherein the example has been taken as an example to the producer industry, wherein you can see the target which is finally computed has been divided into, the target of 18,000 is divided into recycling and UL targets, and that is also would be visible on your portal login, which you can go and see in the target page, annual filing page, where you can see the breakup of those category wise. And that's what you have to be careful while filing, because that can lead to environment compensation. So that's an also checkpoint this year, apart from the regular compliances what we do for the circularity. Please go ahead. I think so. I think this is done. So over to you, Kalani and Ipshita. Thank you so much. And I'll be coming back in the Q&A round. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I invite Himani to take us through the targets of use of recycled plastic content.
Thank you, Ipshita. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. So, as per Plastic Waste Management Rule 2016, the brand owner shall ensure the use of recycled plastic in plastic packaging category wise. So, as we know that there are three different categories, category 1, category 2, category 3. So, we have to introduce recycled content in each and every category as per the compliance. And it is mandatory to use it as per the regulations. So, for the calculations, it is mentioned that to calculate the UReP target, It is based on the percentage of plastic manufactured in the year. For example, you for financial year 25-26, if we are we have to introduce 30% in category 1, then we have to forecast it, right? In the starting of the year, we have to forecast that how much we are going to manufacture, and based on that percentage you have to calculate and you have to introduce in your packaging. So for each category, like for category 1, it's 30% in the initial years. So it's starting from April 25. So going forward, it will be increasing 10% every year. And from 28-29, it will be 60% onwards. So for category 2, which includes flexible plastic, it is 10% in 25-26, and it will remain same in 26-27. For 27-28, it will be 20%, and above that also it will be remain same. For category 3, which includes MLP, it is 5% in the initial year, same in the next year, and then 10% from 27-28 and onwards. So all these percentage you have to calculate based on the manufacturing you are doing in that particular year. So for category 3 target, the target is only applicable on the plastic weight, plastic packaging weight. So as you know that the CAT 3 is a multi-layer which includes other than the plastic also. So for calculating your UReP target, you have to only calculate the weight of the plastic packaging. So as per the PWM rules, UReP fulfillment can be through PIR or PCR. In the PWM rule, it's not given that whether we have to use the post-consumer for UReP or pre-consumer. So we can use any of these to fulfill our targets. Other than that, there is also exemption available by the CPCB, but that is case-to-case basis. So in case you are from food grade industry and you are facing challenges in introducing recycled content in your packaging, then you can write to CBCP and take a grant from them. And once you get the grant, you can look for credits available online on the CPCB portal with other PIPOs who have excess UReP credits. So this is there. Other than that, if you are an importer, then in that case, if you are introducing recycled content and you are importing, that will not be considered because we have to use locally available recycled content only, and that can only be claimed. So that is not there. And for that, although in the rules it's written that the exemption, exemption will be allowed for the importers, but because it's a new rule, so it's better that you get an acknowledgement from CPCB and go ahead with that. So CPCB will be developing the mechanism for such transactions and exchange on the EPR credits. PIBO falling in the multiple categories will have to fulfill their obligation under each plastic category. So, for example, if you are having a product, packaging which has Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, both, all three categories. So you have to take the percentage of UReP target of every category and fulfill accordingly. In case of non-compliance of UReP obligation, then EC will be applicable on that. So for Cat 1, it will be 2,900 per metric ton. For Cat 2, it's 5,000 per metric ton. And for Cat 3, it's 7,900 per metric ton. So, so we have got few recent clarification, like you have given, like I have already told you, that the calculation is based on the plastic manufactured for the year. So this is the verbal communication we got from CPCB. Similarly, the category 3 target is only on plastic packaging. That is also through the verbal communication from CPCB. For for getting more clarity for UReP obligation, we can also look for BIS standard 14534, which talks about the recovery and recycling of plastic waste guidelines. Potential to reduce ETR targets. So basically, if you are using, you are fulfilling your claim for UReP, then your EPR target will also be reduced. And if you are looking for exemption, then you have to take a pre-approval from CPCB. That is mandate. Next slide. So recycle resin from registered recycler is only possible. So the recyclers who are registered under PWM rules, from there only you can procure the recycled resins, and that should be adhered to standard 14534 for 2023, which we have just discussed. If you are using the recycled resins in your packaging, then there should be some marking and labeling also in your packaging as per the compliance. So it should have the component name, and it should also tell that how much percentage of recycled plastic available in that packaging. I'll explain this with an example also. First, I'll just go through the thing. After you mentioned that what packaging you are what packaging you are using and how much percentage you have introduced, you also have to add a polymer identification mark along with the recycled plastic percentage. So on the right side, you see that there is a polymer identification mark 4, which has LDP under it, and there is R25 written. So this is showing that there is a LDP material packaging which has 25% of recycled plastic in it. And under that also we have written that sachet is made up of 20%, 25% recycled plastic. So to comply with the rules, you have to use such kind of marking and labeling on your packaging whenever you use the recycled content in your packaging. If you are taking exemption and I'm taking online credits, then that you can discuss what is required. Recycled percentage utilized to be verified on basis of traceability as defined as per the standard 14534 2023. So the standard 14534 refers to ISO 22095, which is a traceability of material standard, and EN 15343, which is a chain of custody standard. And this verifies that your these standard combine and verify that the recycled content you are using in your packaging is competent enough to fulfill the requirement by the regulations. So these kind of verification will be done if you're using the recycled content at your packaging level. Regulatory CPCB audit will be attracted as per your report percentage of use of recycled content on the portal. So right now, as you are must be hearing that there are PWP audits going on. So similarly, such UReP audits will also be conducted by the CPCB going forward. Next slide. Thank you, Kalyani. Thank you, Ipshita. Thank you, everyone. I'll join in Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Himani, for enlightening us. Now I call upon Sujan to take us through the claim and the UReP assessment reporting.
Thank you, Ipshita. Thank you, Himani. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Good afternoon, everyone. So now that we have understood, a brief background of what is UReP and, what are the ifs and buts for claiming. Now we come to a very important, aspect that is, claiming the UReP consumption of use of recycled plastic on the portal. So for the for the ease of the audience, what we have done is we have broken it down into 4 steps. But before going to those 4 steps, I would like to clarify that EPR credit and UReP credits are 2 different things. The recycler is only allowed to generate EPR credits, and the UReP credits will be generated by the PIBOs. Now, how are these UReP credits generated, or how the claim can be made on the portal? The first step for this is that the origin of the recycled content can only be through a registered recycler or PWP on the portal. So for example, if you are procuring it from a trader or from a dealer, that will not be applicable. The source has to be the registered recycler. The register recycler on the portal has to pass the entry of the sales made to your converter or the producer. Once he puts that entry on the portal, a unique EPR invoice number is generated for such entry, which can be passed on to that producer or the converter. Once this is done, the converter on his EPR portal will be able to see this particular entry reflecting in its procurement transactions under the PIBO operations sections. Once that is done, the producer will have to put the sales in favor of the brand owner on an invoice basis, wherein there is a specific column for recycled content percentage, wherein they need to mention the percentage which they are, including in the packaging sold by them. Once that step is done, again at this stage, there would be a unique APRE invoice number, which will be, reflecting in the brand owner's procurement account. Once it is reflecting in the procurement account, the brand owners at the time of filing of annual returns need to, show the consumption of such recycled plastic or PCR materials in their state-wise consumption. Once they have done that, if you see on the right side, the first screenshot, a a confirmation of the claim which has been made would be reflecting in the annual return summary. For example, in the in the screenshot which we have taken, the following company has taken 135 tons of recycled content in its category 2 packaging. So this is what is currently active on the portal. So last year also, we have around 5,000 metric tons of recycled content claim, which we have also filed for our clients. um, we would have reached to this stage of claiming the consumption in the portal. There is also one more stage which is there in as a part of the guidance manual, which is mentioned in the screenshot, the second screenshot which is there on the portal, wherein it says that once it is reported, the brands will be having a potential over and above their EPR target. So for example, over and above their UReP target. So for example, let's say a brand has a UReP target of 50 tons and he has reported the consumption of 100 tons. In that case, the brand will have the potential to generate the credit of 50 tons only, while 50 tons will go towards its own EPR obligation. Once the brand has claimed this on the annual return filing, he will be granted a potential. Once that potential is available on the web portal, the credits may be generated through that potential. But as I mentioned earlier, currently this functionality is only mentioned in the guidance manual, but it is not to be seen on the portal. Next slide, please. So now coming to what we have done as a solution for the brand owners and the producers who want to start incorporating PCR materials but don't know where to start. For this, what we have done is we have created a UReP compliance assessment sheet. So when we begin, onboarding, or we are in the trial phases, when we are onboarding the suppliers for UReP, we have created a particular checklist which covers all the things. So if you see, the first point A is the packaging description, wherein the basic description of what the packaging is, whether it is context sensitive, whether are there any regulations like FSSAI or FDA which are applicable to that product, what is the polymer code for those packaging material is all mentioned. Then comes the point B, wherein the traceability and ensuring that at each stage the stakeholders on the portal are registered is being taken care of. So for example, in the current example, what we have done is we have taken a recycler, there is a converter, there is a packaging producer, and there is a final brand owner, and whether they all are registered or not. The third stage comes in wherein with respect to if there is any FSSI approval which is required for this packaging, whether that approval is there with the the recycler or not. What are the certifications which are available with the recycler, the packaging producer, the converter, as per IS standard 14534, which Himani had taken you through in the previous slides. Post that, what we take care is the marking and labeling. So whether the name is there, the polymer code is there, the recycling, the R2025 number is there, whether it is thickness compliant or not. Post that, we give a recommendation to the branch and the or the PIBOs whether they can if they can start working with the vendor or not, considering the risk assessment. This is the first stage. In the second stage, what happens is we help the brands claim the same on the portal through the methodology which we explained in the previous slides. So yeah, that's it from my end. I guess I'll hand it over back to Ipsita. Thank you so much. Have a good day, all of you.
Thank you, Sujan. We'll have you again in the Q&A round. And yeah, so as we understood from the series of slides that were presented today, we understood the compliances, what needs to be done, what needs to be taken care of by us as the registered entities, registered PIBOs on the EPR portal, and how should we claim the UReP compliances. So moving onward, I would also like to add to the compliances about the recent updates with respect to the reuse obligations and the use of recycled content in the plastic packaging. There was a lot of meetings that happened between the industrial associations and the regulatory bodies, and I would like to brief a few of them here. Uh, the first meeting that we have noted here is is held on December 16, 2024 between the industrial associations and CPCB, wherein key issues and challenges with respect to the reuse obligations and UReP obligations were highlighted in front of the regulatory authorities. There were highlights with respect to the food and pharmaceutical packaging subject to FSSAI and CPCB approvals. There were restrictions with respect to the food contact regulations and EPR obligation compliances, that how would the credits for the UReP obligations will be initiated, and how would people be able to uh, generate the credits. The second such meeting, which happened between the industrial associations again with the joint secretary of MOFCC, this meeting held on January 14, wherein again such issues were highlighted. But here CPCB also presented that how the recycling industry and everyone was ready with generation of the credits. MOFCC acknowledged all the challenges pertaining to the industries and the regulations, and as of now, no actions have been taken, but yes, actions are certainly being finalized by the regulations. The third such meeting happened with the micro and small industries, the importer and the manufacturer of raw material, the industrial associations related to these industries, and along with the joint secretary of MOFCC. This meeting held on January 16, 2025. And the major highlights were with respect to the generation of the EPR liability that will be generated for micro and small producers, and how would that be transferred, or how would the producers will be answerable to this. The key highlights here were definitely, major suggestions were being taken by industrial bodies, the local urban bodies, CPCB, MOFCC were also noted the challenges with respect to the supply chain mapping, and the decisions were finalized and are expected. So clarity on the compliances is still pending as of date, though the target for UReP and the reuse are starting from 1st of April 2025, but still the compliances are still, we are awaiting the actions from the regulations. We do advise to check the FSSAI certificate for food grade exemption from the regulations. Submit the letter of exemption to CPCB. Ministry is reconsidering the obligations and will be updating on the regulation shortly. What steps you should take for your challenges pertaining to the food regulations, the Drugs and Cosmetics Act, or any other act that is acting as a hindrance, please reach out to CPCB for clarification, or reach out to us for clarification and advisory. Now a bit about AA Garg & Co. AA Garg & Co is a management consulting firm, and we have been specializing in the four main domains of EPR, wherein we take care of the circularity, ESG, the sustainability obligations, corporate finance and business operations, and tech-enabled solutions. We are a team of tapestry of expertise ranging from sustainability experts, environmental engineers, chartered accountants, technical experts, partners, and it is our fortunate that we are really fortunate that we have been working in this industry and really growing together so far. Now I would like you to take you through the services that we do under the domain of EPR, the three pillars that we serve are with respect to the compliances, the compliance filing on the EPR portal. We also do risk assessment for the EPR credits, the targets that you receive, the compliances that are mentioned under the regulations with respect to the recyclers and the collection centers. We also provide consulting and advisory with respect to your footprint assessments. 3R advisory, circulatory solutions with respect to reuse, use of recycled content, minimum recycling obligations. We help in implementing the governance structure for your company and also help in training and capability building. So this is about us. Over to you, Kalyani, now.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to our incredible speakers and to every one of you who have joined and made our session successful. So we appreciate your engagement and look forward to staying connected. Thank you once again and see you in our future sessions.